For all those who appreciate the work that we're doing here on Standing for Truth, please hit that subscribe button because we are just getting started. What we observe in the fossil record is death, degeneration, and extinction. And this is all consistent with the Genesis starting point. Now, there are a couple different things going on that give the evolutionary community the impression that human evolution is true. One is that there are often artificial species that consist of a mixture of ape and human beings. The sites paleoanthropologists would go to for their next big missing link are often scattered with fragmented bones. Consequently, bones of multiple species would be confused as one single species, when in fact they were separate species, humans and apes. The bones are being found together at these excavation sites, intermingled. For example, Australopithecus sediba and Homo habilis could be artificial constructs that consist of a loose collection of human and ape bones. Ella Bin and Yoel Rack hold this view of Australopithecus sediba based on the lumbar vertebra and jaw bones that are derived from two different genera. Also, Australopithecus afarensis is claimed by experts to be a chimeric species. It is a jumble of bones from multiple species. Even Donald Johanson has reported at one time that at least two different species from two different genera were represented in his bones. Some fossils even looking exactly like human fossils. Many of the hominin fossils are clear evidence of rapid genomic degeneration. Yet proponents of human evolution point to them as evidence for ape-to-man evolution. This rapid genomic degeneration is due to inbreeding, isolation, and founder effects. Many of these hominin fossils clearly display anomalous pathologies. This would reveal that in the past, several isolated and inbred human populations have experienced what is called reductive evolution. This is essentially devolution. Well, what has this type of reductive evolution resulted in? The answer to this question is genetic pathologies. These numerous genetic pathologies would be reduced body size and reduced brain size. Genetic degeneration is very real and cannot be denied. We see it today, and we also see it in the past. We see it in the fossil record. Homo naledi, a frequently pointed to example of human evolution, is simply more evidence of reductive evolution. This is what we see. Naledi was clearly inbred and suffered from genetic degeneration, again resulting in reduced body size, reduced brain volume, and various pathologies. The same thing is observed in Erectus. Although less advanced, the reductive evolution is clearly present. And so, several of the bones of the purported Homo species, like the hobbits, Homo erectus, Homo naledi, and Homo neanderthalensis, appear to demonstrate testimony of serious inbreeding and genetic degeneration. This would be, of course, due to post-Babel dispersion of people groups. Many of the people groups would have migrated to parts of the earth that were less than ideal. If a people group, for example, became isolated and inbreeding resulted as a consequence. Rapid genetic degeneration would occur. Harsh environmental conditions in the immediate post-flood world would also lead to disease, nutrition deficiencies, and environmental related genetic degeneration. There were many negative factors at play in the immediate post-flood and post-Babel world that would lead to accelerated genetic decay of small people groups. This means that many of the troubling human fossils that evolutionary proponents say are pre-human are better realized to be devolution. We oftentimes see morphological and genetic degeneration. We are told by the evolutionists that these fossils are evidence for ape-to-man evolution, when in fact, this is just more evidence of genetic entropy. Genetic entropy is a reality, and the critics deny this reality. They deny reality. The so-called primitive features that the apologists and the defenders of ape-to-man evolution had pointed to, in the case of the hobbits, also known as Homo floresiensis, Homo erectus, Homo naledi, Homo neanderthalensis, do not actually show they were less than human. They were not pre-human. They were all fully human. As a matter of fact, they were all made in the image of God. They did not evolve from pre-human creatures. More correctly, they were human communities, 100% human, that were persistently inbred and were in genetic decline. Exactly what would be expected from a post-Babel model. As we can see in the fossil record, pathology and genetic degeneration appears to be a common theme. This is the rule, it's not an exception. Experts in human evolution would have us believe that Homo erectus evolved into modern humans, when in fact the evidence appears to indicate that modern humans, ultimately of course descending from Adam and Eve, the first couple, changed into what proponents of evolution say are pre-humans, and oftentimes transitional. These people groups were 100% human and made in the image of God. As the evidence appears to suggest, these post-Babel and sometimes possibly pre-Babel people groups were eventually driven to extinction by either genetic degeneration or human conquest. Since these isolated tribes went extinct first, these would be what the evolutionary community proposes are the earliest ancestors. Also, based on what we understand about the Babel event, it is apparent that the various ape types, including the Australopithecines, would have spread out before humans. Therefore, what we see in the bone beds reflects the different migration patterns of both the ape types and humans. When proponents of human evolution assert that ape-like creatures such as Lucy evolved first, what they misunderstand is that they spread out first. This is what the evidence suggests, and this is not a forward progression of ape-like creatures evolving into humans. This is simply all a reflection of post-flood and post-Babel history, perfectly consistent and expected based on the biblical model of ancestry. Another thing to consider is that we are not beholding the arrival of culture from ape-like or animal-like ancestors. We are observing a rekindling of culture by people who essentially lost everything once that confusion at Babel happened. When we think about the Tower of Babel and the groups of people living there and working together to produce it, we can think of it like our own community that we live in. We all have our own jobs. We have got people that work in the hospital, people who work in construction, people who make and distribute food. We have got farmers, police officers, we've got accountants, and numerous types of doctors. As a matter of fact, this list could go on forever. No one person does it all. These jobs are broken up amongst the people to live a functioning and operating community. Now we can imagine what stemmed from the confusion of the languages at the Tower of Babel scene. Maybe one group had no real practical skills at building or hunting or even farming. This means that these groups of people deficient in these types of skills would end up living a very primitive life. Some would even look at it as prehistoric. This is exactly what we are seeing in the fossil record. The case is closed. The evidence best fits the biblical model of ancestry, the very same evidence that the evolutionary community and the proponents of ape-to-man evolution look to as evidence is actually evidence for independent origins.